After a complete radio silence on the very detailed and serious sexual assault allegations made by a former Biden staffer against Joe Biden, the New York Times has finally decided to cover the details of those allegations. We've talked about those allegations on TYT for weeks now. Tara Reade is the former Senate staffer who's brought these accusations forward. And she has now officially filed a formal police report on the incident. She did so last week. And luckily, the Times did report on it. Now, we'll get into the details and discussion as to whether or not the Times did a fair job in covering those allegations. But before we do so, there's one story that ended up developing from the Times coverage, and it has to do with what they had put out on Twitter to promote their reporting. So there was a tweet that they put up and then they later deleted it. And I'm going to read it to you and you can probably tell why they ended up deleting it. No other allegation about sexual assault surfaced in the course of our reporting, nor did any former Biden staff corroborate Reade's allegation. We find no pattern or found no pattern of sexual misconduct by Biden beyond the hugs, kisses, and touching that women previously said made them uncomfortable. So they later deleted that tweet and replaced it with, a friend said Sarah Reade told her the details of the allegation at the time, and another friend and a brother of Reade's said she told them over the years about the traumatic sexual incident involving Biden. And they also included one other tweet explaining why they deleted the initial tweet, saying we've deleted a tweet in this thread that had some imprecise language that has been changed in the story. And we'll get to the details of the story in just a minute. But Cenk, I wanted to get your thoughts on the now deleted tweet.
I can't tell if they deleted that tweet because it was embarrassing to say there's no pattern of sexual misconduct except for all the other women that he hugged, kissed without permission, etc., right? Or if the Biden camp complained, hey, you know what? If you put the hugging and kissing next to the sexual misconduct, it'll seem like those 7 other cases are sexual misconduct, so don't do that. And they responded to that request from a powerful camp. So it could be either.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, just based on the reaction that the original tweet led to, I would argue that it's because of the language that makes it appear as though there was never any pattern of any sexual misconduct. There clearly is a pattern because 7 other women have accused Biden of touching them in ways that made them incredibly uncomfortable, including, Lucy Flores was one of the first to come forward. She talked about how Biden touched the back of her neck and gave her a kiss on the back of her head, obviously without permission. And so there are other examples like that. And then you get to like the actual reporting. And I'm going to be honest here and just say that my expectations, especially after this last 12 months, for the New York Times has been so low that I thought it was just going to be a total hit piece on Tara Reade. I thought they were going to trash her, smear her, and try to paint her as someone who's not credible at all. And I was actually surprised to find that that was not what they did. So this was reported by Lisa Lehrer and Sydney Ember. There were issues, in my opinion, with the way that the article was written, but I think overall they did a decent job in talking to both camps. And more importantly, they were honest in talking to some of Tara Reade's friends who she had informed at the time of that sexual misconduct. So they verified that Tara Reade had spoken to them at the time. They reported that, and I was happy about that. But in the middle of the article, there were 3 paragraphs dedicated specifically to the sexual assault allegations against Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump really has nothing to do with this story. And the reason why they did that is because they wanted to, in my opinion, downplay the allegations that Tara Reade was making relative to what Donald Trump has been accused of.
Okay, so I have a little bit different view on the article than you do, Anna. Mine is more mixed. I think there was some value in the article. First of all, I'm glad they wrote it instead of just ignoring it because it was against their beloved Joe Biden. But okay, let's note the interesting coincidence in the timing. Bernie Sanders exits the race. Okay, finally we can write about Tara Reade. Oh, we've been working on it all along. So the Washington Post media critic then asked me on Twitter, like, are you suggesting that they did that on purpose? Yeah, well, that's why I said it ahead of time. I said they would cover the story as soon as Bernie Sanders got out of the race, and that's exactly what they did. And so we're going to talk more about that in the post game. We're going to show you evidence on that. tyt.com/join to become a member and get the post game. So we'll have enough time then to discuss that. But so the timing is interesting. And when you read the story, yes, they present both sides in a sense. And that's good. I want them to do that, not because both sides are equal, but because I want them to explore all angles, because I'm genuinely curious, did it happen or did it not happen? And I would hope that they would be, they have resources we don't have in being able to talk to so many other people about the context. And they actually did add one thing to the story, which is important. She said that she was in charge of the intern program, and then they took her off that program when she complained. Well, it turns out the New York Times did confirm that she was abruptly taken off the intern program. That's interesting, and that adds new evidence to this story. Now, the rest of it, I got to be honest, if I was a Joe Biden PR person, this is exactly how I would write it. I would wait till Bernie Sanders is out of the race, but I would do it super early in the general election so it affects the general election the least. I would write it so, hey, look, I'm being fair. I looked at Tara Reade's this and that, and I gave the allegations. But I would write it in a context, which is what this article is, but Biden is a good guy, man. Everybody that worked with him says he's a wonderful guy. And, I guess some people say she did say it at the time. But anyway, back to how wonderful Biden is and how everybody else vouches for him. And remember, Trump's a much worse guy. When you put Trump's a much worse guy into that story, which is absolutely true, by the way, right? But it seems like, again, I'm not saying that they definitely did not coordinate. They're way too sophisticated to do anything ham-handed like that. And they literally wouldn't do that. But it's groupthink. So if I'm the PR person for Biden and I read that article, I think, nailed it. This is exactly how I would want it covered.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's an interesting take. I think the timing of the article is something worthy of discussion, and we'll do that in the post game. But I will say that anyone who reads this and thinks of this story in an objective way, just the objective facts, the truth is the only people who are denying this are people who are incredibly close to Joe Biden and stand to lose quite a bit if Joe Biden loses the general election. Of course, these are people who are going to deny the accusations and stick up for Biden, right? Again, they're Biden's friends. And in one case, Tara Reade said that she brought this up to the staff and that they didn't do anything about it. And so the Times went and spoke to one of the women who was allegedly informed about this. And she said that she doesn't remember it and that she would have remembered it and this didn't happen. But again, if someone accuses me of that, Cenk, I'm not going to want to fess up to it when the Times comes to me and asks me, hey, is it true that you buried a sexual assault allegation? So Ryan Grimm tweeted the following while we had already gone live, which is why I hadn't seen this earlier. He said, in a fascinating interview, Dean Baguette, who's the executive editor and publisher of the New York Times, made that controversial edit in the Tara Reade story at the behest of the Biden campaign. So apparently there was some coordination, and I wanted to make sure that you guys were fully aware of it and fully informed.
Nailed it. So listen, guys, this is why I tell you guys that when you're comparing us versus mainstream media in political analysis, they are constantly catering to power. And so almost by definition, they're going to be less accurate than we are. Since we don't have to cater to that, we can give you the breadth of our political experience. And as Anna and I did, we said there's two possible reasons why they could have done this. And the reason that I suspected that they were influenced by the Biden campaign, and I wouldn't even call it coordination. I would just say what happens all the time, and I know this from covering politics for 25 years now, is different campaigns will complain to the press.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges,
constantly,
got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video.
I saw that they took that portion out of not only the tweet, but they took it out of the story itself, where they connected the 7 other women who charged hugging, kissing, etc., without permission to the sexual misconduct. My sense was the Biden campaign would not like that. They don't like those things being in the same sentence. And if they called the New York Times, if you and I called the New York Times, this actually did happen in my campaign.
It did happen.
Right. They initially in my campaign, they were like, oh, no way. But in our case, it was a factual matter. 2 + 2 = 4, right? And they're like, nope, it doesn't equal 4. And we had to put enormous pressure on. And after days and days, they were finally like, fine, it equals 4. That's what the radio host said, I guess, right? But when the Biden campaign calls and says, I don't like the construct of that sentence, they're like, yes, sir. Sorry, sir. I'm so sorry, sir. And so that happens daily. That's why Dean admitting it, he probably felt like, duh, yeah, of course, right? Yeah. Whereas everyone else, like maybe he forgot that they're the PR that they put out to the rest of the world is, oh my God, we are not at all influenced by any of the campaigns, especially the Democratic establishment campaigns. We are totally neutral and objective. Oh, please spare me.